Hey guys, this is Alex from Banana Hobby, and today I want to take some time to talk about our brand new NX3 Gyro. This is a fine piece of technology. It's a gyro built for airplanes. Today I will be talking about two common flight configurations, one being the normal standard flight configuration and then the other being the delta wing mixing flight configuration. There are major key points about this gyro that I want to stress. Some of them being the fact that this is a 3-axis gyro. So you have your rudder, your elevator, and your ailerons being mixed into this gyro so that the system can correct itself while it's in the air. That's your pitch for your elevator, your roll for your aileron, and then your yaw for the rudder. This is definitely a fine piece of technology when you're flying, whether you're a beginner, an intermediate, or an advanced pilot. If you're a beginner, this is a great thing to get you started, to get you comfortable with flying, and get you familiarized with how an airplane reacts in the air. So you can put this on a glider, a recommended airplane for a beginner, flight trainer with the high wing design. For intermediate or advanced pilots, you can put this on airplanes that you're comfortable doing aerobatics with. It'll give you a rough idea on how to do certain maneuvers such as rolls, loops, all that cool stuff. This gyro will be there to back you up. It also helps a lot with different weather conditions. Sometimes they can get pretty windy. I like flying in the morning when the wind is definitely not too much of a hassle, but as it gets towards the middle of the day or the afternoon, it gets really windy. So, putting in this gyro, it helps you a lot with the wind conditions. It really corrects and stabilizes your unit in the air if set up properly. This NX3 gyro is really simple to set up. Even the hardware, everything's already included for you. The servo leads are all there. You're gonna use them when you're setting it up, connecting the servos into the gyro and setting up the gyro with the receiver. So again, the servo leads are all included. You don't have to fabricate your own or solder your own servo leads together. Everything is all in there. It's really straightforward. It's all labeled. The instruction manual is pretty clear also. It helps you with the setup. It also includes a double-sided tape so you can put the gyro into the system or into your airplane and secure it onto the fuselage. So it's pretty neat. So I'm gonna go over this video. I'm gonna feature two airplanes, one being our Knight 860 for the delta wing mixing, and then the second airplane will be the Skysurfer V5 for the standard flight configuration. So this is our Knight 860 airplane. The reason I picked it is because this airplane has to fly in delta wing mixing because you only have your ailerons, which also serve as your elevators for elevation, or your pitch, pretty much elevon mixing, and then it also has your rudder. Some brief things about this airplane. It's probably one of the best deals that you can get out there right now. You get two motors, one for EDF and one for propeller setup, so it's a push prop in the back. Everything comes in there, all the hardware for the EDF and all the hardware for the propeller. It's all in there. It's almost ready to fly. You have your servos, your ESC, everything's all in there and ready to go. All you have to do is assemble it, which is not too difficult. It's a blast to fly, and even if you mix it with the NX3 gyro, it's even better. Hey guys, so here I have the Knight 860 all taken out and set up. The canopy is off. I have my NX3 gyro here and then my receiver over here. What we have right now is the gyro itself is parallel to the longer lines of the fuselage. And that's normally the ideal type of setup that you want. And you also want it on a flat surface so that when the gyro is initializing, when you power on, it'll gather all the necessary data and initialize correctly. So the gyro is right here, and then I have my receiver set up. Now in the box, which I have over here, I got my wires that I'm gonna need, my servo leads. I'm only gonna need 4, but it comes with 5 if you need an extra one. One important key thing that you must not overlook is the polarities of the wires or the colors. In the gyro right here, you'll see S, plus, and negative. So signal, positive, and negative. So you wanna make sure that the polarities of the wires are matching that bit of information, and that also reflects on your receiver. So right now, unfortunately, my servo leads were not labeled, but I've already gone and set that up. So I have one of them in the aileron, one of them in the elevator, and then one of them in the rudder. So, since it's a elevon mixing or a delta wing mixing, one servo completely is on the aileron, the other servo from the other wing is on the elevator, and then we have the rudder servo onto the rudder channel of the NX3. Another thing is, since we're flying this in delta wing mixing, there's a set of switches right here on the NX3. You see right here it says Delta, VTOL, and aileron 2. Since we're using a delta wing model, I went ahead and switched this switch onto the right side or at least from my perspective, to the right side to switch it on. This information will also be on the manual, and it'll let you know how the switches are supposed to be depending on the flight configuration that you need the airplane to be on. If it were a standard flight mode or a normal flight mode, all switches would be off. But this is not the case, so I have this one set in delta wing mixing, which is set to the right. So as I mentioned, right now it's pretty simple, but one important key factor that you must not miss or cannot be overlooked is to make sure that all your servo leads are properly matching with the polarities of the gyro and also the receiver. So I have my throttle lead set up already right there, and then the rest of the 3 servo leads. So like I mentioned, I have 5 servo leads that you'll need to set up with the gyro. So I'm gonna take my first one. So you see that one that says aileron in. Again, I'm gonna match the signal positive and negative, which is white, red, and black. I'm gonna put that in there and set that up. So now we have one in. This one is gonna go to the receiver. So it's gonna be from the gyro to the receiver, and that's how the system will work. I'm gonna get my next one. Again, the same thing, make sure all polarities are matching. I'm gonna put that into the elevator port of the gyro. So let's get that in there. Then I'm gonna get the last one, which is gonna be for the rudder, and also put that in there into the rudder port of the gyro. Okay, so right here, I already have my 3 servo leads set up. And what I mean by that is I have the 3 leads that'll go from the gyro itself to the receiver. Again, the servo leads coming from the servos are already connected onto the gyro. One other thing I wanted to mention is I have a mild stick double-sided tape currently on the system. I'm not using the one that comes with the gyro itself because that one's more stronger, it sticks on better. So the reason I do that is because if I ever have to switch the, move the gyro forward or backwards a bit, I can do so easily without having to take out any tape or make any changes because the tape or the double-sided tape is mild. Once I'm ready to stick on the gyro onto the fuselage, I'll come and get the double-sided tape that came with the gyro and mount it on. Now, when you open up the tape or when you receive this package, this NX3 package, you'll notice that the double-sided tape has a red square and then a white area. So usually I like to stick on the red square onto the fuselage and then the other white portion onto the gyro. So right now I'm gonna set up the servo leads to the receiver. So since the top one is the elevator, I'm gonna start off with the elevator first on the gyro. So the elevator is the second one on the gyro, which would be this one. I'm gonna get that. And again, I can't stress this enough, make sure your polarities are matching. So I'm gonna stick in the elevator with the elevator, make sure they're both matching. Put that in there right now. Okay, so the elevator is in. So you can see the elevator port from the gyro is going onwards and matching the elevator port on the receiver. I'm gonna get the aileron port from the gyro and match that onto the aileron port on the receiver. So that's 2, and then one final one, which is the one from the rudder. I'll match that onto the rudder channel of the receiver. So I already have my aileron, elevator, and rudder ports from the gyro connected onto the receiver port here. Now this 4th wire, you don't really have to use it, but it's suggested to use it. And this would plug into the AUX or the aux in port. So I'm gonna plug that in. So I'm gonna plug this aux in port from my gyro into the aux 1 or auxiliary 1 into the receiver. So that's going into the receiver, aux 1. Now, this lead, I'm connecting it into my aux 1 channel because that's a 3-way switch or 3-way toggle switch on my transmitter. I'm gonna get that real quick. Here's 0, 1, and 2. So 3-way. And that's neat. It's, you don't have to use it, but it's suggested for the reason that because you'll be able to control the gyro to either have it on, off, or in standby mode. Now, if you have it on, the gyro will be doing its thing. It'll be stabilizing the unit, correcting you while it's in the air, pretty much complementing your flight. When it's off, which you can do that in midair, you can turn off the gyro. So If you don't really feel like using the gyro for something specific, you can turn it off with flip of the switch and you have total control of the airplane. And then standby mode, it's pretty much when the gyro is waiting for further initialization. Now that's during the calibration procedure. Again, if you're using a three-way toggle switch, to calibrate the gyro, you would have to have it in standby mode. And this is after you've done some certain change. You don't have to do it all the time. So let's say you powered up already and you made a slight change, or you want to just recalibrate and reinitialize your gyro. You would do that by flipping the toggle switch in all three different ways quickly within a second. So that'll initialize and reinstate the gyro so that it's completely stable. Again, you don't have to do that. You can leave that switch out or this plug out and the gyro will constantly be on. You won't be able to turn it off. Every time you need to reinitialize the gyro, you're gonna have to plug in the turn off the unit and then plug in and power up again. All right, so I have my transmitter here. I'm gonna bring down the throttle stick all the way down, turn on the transmitter first, and then plug in the battery. Let's get that in there. So right now it's gonna do its initialization. You'll notice that there might be a twitch. Totally normal, it's just the gyro doing its thing and setting up. So the LED on the gyro is currently solid. That means the gyro is doing its thing. It's already able to, make the corrections if you need to. If I flip my toggle switch up one way or to number 1, so from 0 to 1 for my transmitter, it'll be completely off. You'll see that the gyro light is completely off. Now I'm gonna switch it again or go up one more to number 2. You notice a flashing light. That means the gyro is currently on standby mode, waiting for final, your final response. And that's if you have to reinitialize the system. And I mentioned earlier that you would have to flip the toggle switch quickly so that the gyro can reinitialize again. So I have it currently on a solid LED, which is making it's ready to make the corrections. So I'm just gonna do a quick pre-flight check procedure. Pull down on the elevator. You can see that both of my elevons, they're facing up for up pitch to gain elevation. I'm gonna pull down. Everything seems to be responding correctly. Right aileron, my right aileron is going up and my left one's going down. Left aileron, my left aileron is going up and my right one is going down. Just gonna do throttle real quick. I'm just gonna do rudder. So right rudder, we got right rudder response, and then left rudder, we got left rudder response, and then just a quick throttle. Okay, perfect. So everything's set. Before you even start configuring the gyro and making sure it's making the proper corrections, you need to make sure that your transmitter and your servos are all responding correctly by doing that pre-flight procedure that I just did right now. So I have my 3 dial pods, one for the aileron, one for the elevator, and one for the rudder on the NX3 Gyro. They're currently roughly set at about 12 o'clock. And what that means is there's no gain on the gyro to make any, any corrections. So if I were to move it, pitch it or roll it, pitch it up or down, or, use the rudder, but you see there's no corrections coming from the gyro. So this is the easy part. I like to take it one by one. So I'm going to start off with the aileron first. And since I don't know how it is right now, we're gonna have to do a little bit of trial and error. I am going to move this aileron dial pod counterclockwise to about the, I would say 10 to 9 o'clock position. It's about 10 right now, 10 o'clock. Okay, so you should hear some corrections being made now from the gyro, and we'll see roughly about what it's doing. Okay, there it is. When you're testing to make sure that the gyro is responding correctly, you have to exaggerate a little bit so you can see what it's doing. As you can see, I'm exaggerating a little bit. And now what you want to see is, say you're banking to the right, the gyro will make it so that the left aileron goes up and the right one goes down. That goes the exact opposite if you're banking or if you're rolling to the left. So if you're rolling to the left, your right aileron should go up and the left one should go down from the gyro. So That is, as you can see, it's a little hard to see on the camera. So like I mentioned, you have to really pay attention to it when you're doing it in person, and you have to exaggerate the movements and pay attention to both response or to both sides to make sure that they have a proper response. So right now I'm going to the right, and you can see that the left aileron is going up while the right one is going down. And if I go to the left, the right aileron goes up and the left aileron goes down. That is correct. The gyro is supposed to react oppositely. So that seems pretty much normal to me. Now, I set it to the 10 o'clock position on a dial pod. You can go even further counterclockwise. You could probably bring it down to the 8 o'clock. Now, what that is you're adding more gain to the gyro, and that means the gyro will also there will be more corrections from the gyro. Now, I know that sounds like a good idea, you know, maybe the gyro will correct me even better, but that's not necessarily always the best, because then there's something that we call overcorrection, and that means the gyro is overcorrecting itself, and you know that becomes more counterproductive. So right now I have it at my 10 o'clock position, which is a pretty good modest amount. That should actually, you'll be able to notice a difference while in flight. But if you feel like you need more gain, you can just simply move that dial pod a little further down. So now I'm more at the 9 o'clock position, and that means there's more gain coming from the gyro. So then again, I'm rolling to the right, and you can see that the left aileron is moving up. Now if I'm rolling to the left, you'll see that the right aileron is moving up and the left one is moving down. That is perfectly fine. This is also preference. You can do it either way. The way I'm doing right here on a front position point of view. But if you like to be behind the airplane because you feel that you understand better, that's perfectly fine. You just have to make sure that the gyro is responding in the opposite direction of what the airplane is doing. So I just explained that over with the ailerons. It'll be a lot easier to tell with the elevators, so let's get started with that one. Same thing with this one, a little trial and error might need to be done. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing with the elevator. I'm gonna take it from the 12 o'clock position, turn it counterclockwise onto the 10 o'clock, just like we did for the ailerons. You should start hearing some corrections. Now, for the elevator, you have to pretend like the airplane is pitching up or down. So you have to do that in response to the nose. So I'm gonna pitch the nose down, okay? Again, you have to exaggerate. So you notice the differences, not a lot, since I'm not exaggerating the flight or like the flight simulation. So now I'm pitching the nose up. All right, so now let's try to exaggerate a little bit. Right now it seems reversed, so that's no biggie, not much of a hassle. Again, we come down to the dial pods. Now the reason it seems reversed is because when I pitch my airplane down, or when the nose is pitching downwards, the gyro is making the elevators go downwards, and that's not good. It's gonna do something where you have even more control or more output going into that direction, so the airplane is literally going to dive into a nose dive. That's not good. So we'll get that fixed right now. So it looks like I might have to put the dial pod to the 2 or 3 o'clock position. Looks like we got that, okay. Responding correctly from the transmitter. All right, let's try again. I'm gonna pitch the nose of the airplane downwards. All right, perfect. It's a little hard to see on the camera, but you really have to pay attention. I'll explain that right now. And I'm gonna pitch the nose up. You notice that when I pitch it up, the elevons or the elevators, their trailing edge will go down. Now that makes perfect sense because the gyro is doing the opposite of what the airplane is doing. So let's just say if it was flying, it'll not that it'll overcorrect you, but it'll stabilize the unit so it's not too bad, too shaky. It'll just make it smooth in the air, which is perfect. So again, pitching the nose up, you see the elevons or the elevators going down. If I pitch the nose down, you see the trailing edge of the elevons or elevators going up. That's perfectly fine. So now we have the rudder. That's the trickiest one. Sometimes you might have to double check on that just to make sure you have the right direction. So again, you know, this is right, that's left. So I usually like to set up the gyro while looking at it from behind, but I'll be doing it from the front today. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn this knob counterclockwise, maybe just a little bit more. And the same thing, you have to over exaggerate. So for example, this would be right, which means the airplane would go this way, and then that would be left, right? Okay, so we have to exaggerate. You see the rudder moving a bit. Okay, so again, that's right. That seems perfect. I am yawing the airplane to the left, and the actual rudder, you notice it moving to the right. So again, the gyro is doing the opposite thing, which is what you want to see. Okay, so right here we have the Skysurfer version 5. It's our mid-size Skysurfer. We have 4 different types. We have a super large one and a smaller one, but this is the one we'll be using today. It's perfect for beginners. It's a glider, so you got great stability with the high wing design, and even the tips, the wing tips, they have dihedrals, so that's perfect. And then on top of that, it's nice and modest with the speed. It's not too fast and not too slow. So now when you pair that with this NX3 gyro, it's even better. The airplane itself is more stable in the air, you know, and like I mentioned, it helps you when you're doing different turns, or it pretty much the NX3 complements your flying, which is great. Okay, so my servo leads were not labeled, but they were pretty easy to determine where they were coming from. We have the Y harness that's from the ailerons, because you have 2 servo leads coming to the center, and so that was plugged into the aileron out on the gyro. And then on my right, or the pilot's point of view left, that would be the rudder. Since you can see this, there's a servo right here. It might be a little hard to see on camera, but there's a servo right here, and it follows through with the control rod onto the vertical stabilizer, or the rudder. And then on my left, we have the elevator servo, which is going all the way back to the horizontal stabilizer. So that was plugged in onto the gyro. So it's pretty much set up. I used a double-sided tape that's not too strong. So if I have to move it in the future, I can do so. Or even after I'm done, if I'm ready to set it in stone and it's right where it has to be, I'll use the stronger double-sided tapes that comes with the NX3, and I'll put it in there. Now, I'm trying to keep it as clean as possible, so it's not too messy or too busy. I'll try to give it a great amount of space in between the receiver and the gyro. So let's go ahead and get the receiver. I have my receiver here. So let's put that there, and then we'll start setting up the servo leads. So the first one on the gyro, you can see that it's the aileron in. So that's pretty much this wire right here. Let's plug that in right there. And if you notice, all the wires are plugged in a certain way. And this is because I'm following the gyro's specifications here, where it says signal, positive, and negative. So signal, like all the rest, is going to be white or orange. You see it's white, orange. And then your positive polarity is going to be red. And then the negative will be black. So that's all set up properly. I can't stress this enough. You need to make sure that the polarities are always matching. And this is just to prevent any issues. Sometimes that can be easily overlooked, and I completely understand, but it's important to double check and make sure that everything is plugged in right. So next, if you notice, I put in the elevator servo lead, and these are going to go to the receiver, so we'll get to that point right now. So I will start with the aileron first, since that is the first one on the gyro. We'll put that in on the aileron channel of my receiver, or channel 1. Next, we'll start with the elevator, which is right here, and we'll match that with the elevator channel of my receiver. Next one is rudder, or actually, sorry about that. Would be a rudder on the gyro, but I see that it's throttle next on the receiver, so we'll do that. Let's get the ESC throttle lead plugged into throttle. Perfect. Next is a rudder. And then the last one is my auxiliary, which I will match with my auxiliary one on the receiver. So right now it's getting a little busy, I guess. There's a lot of wires going on, so I'll see if I can clean that up right now. One important piece of information that you cannot skip on is the flight configuration on the gyro. You'll notice 3 configurations: delta, VTOL, and aileron. If you're looking at it from this perspective, as you are in the camera or even in person, you will notice, it's a little hard to see here, but you'll notice that all the switches are set to this side, all of them. And that pretty much means that the gyro itself is in standard flight mode, which is what you want with an airplane like this one, like the Skysurfer V5, or any like T-tail setup that doesn't require any mixing, such as delta wing mixing or VTOL. Pretty much any airplane that can fly in standard flight mode, you know, the switches here would have to be all on the left side. And that means, again, like I mentioned, that the gyro is in standard flight mode. Now let's just say I were to switch the delta wing switch, which is this one right here, to the right. That means the gyro itself now would be in delta wing mixing, which is what you would use, like for example, in a 9860, a delta wing airplane, or any airplane that requires delta wing mixing or aileron mixing. All right, so here it is, the Skysurfer version 5, already set up with the receiver and the gyro. I put my battery in there, just ready, it's ready to be connected. So I attach my receiver with double-sided tape here on the wall of the fuselage, and then the gyro's right here. I'm gonna go ahead and plug in the battery right now. But as always, make sure your transmitter is turned on first with your throttle stick all the way down. Let's go ahead and plug it in. Perfect, okay. So you notice a little servo twitch, that's perfectly normal. That's just the gyro initializing. I'm gonna go ahead and get the canopy and just cover it real quick. All right, so everything is on, everything initialized. We're gonna do a quick surface control check as you're supposed to, and just to make sure everything is responding correctly. Left rudder, perfect. Right rudder, perfect. Down elevator, proper response. Up elevator, perfect. And then we have our ailerons. Okay, something doesn't seem right here. It looks like it's reversed. See, what I'm doing is I'm pulling left on the aileron, and my left surface control on the aileron, which would be, or the left from the pilot's point of view, is facing down. That is reversed. That is an easy fix. I can do so right now. Let me just go ahead and get that fixed. So we go to the reverse and we reverse our aileron channel. Perfect. Now imagine I didn't check that before flight. Something could have gone wrong. So let's double check again. Left aileron, perfect. Now my left aileron surface is facing up and my right one is facing down, which will cause a left banking turn. So that is perfect. All right, so we have our responses correct now, and of course, throttle, perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna take off the canopy again. We're back inside of the airplane. Putting it over there just so it's more stable. Now, every single dial pod currently is in the center or 12 o'clock position. It's pretty much neutral. That means the gyro is on, but even though it's on, it's not gonna correct you because there's no gain on either side. So it's pretty much neutral. So if I move it, there's no activity whatsoever. So that's normal. Okay, I like to take this one by one, just so it keeps things simple. So we'll go ahead and start with the ailerons. A little bit of trial and error will need to be done. So I'm gonna go ahead and set it to the about 10 to 11 o'clock position. So counterclockwise turn to the 11 o'clock. All right, let's see if we get the right response. Now, when you're doing this, you have to really exaggerate your flight simulation. So I might need to put a little bit more gain just to make sure that I'm getting the right response here. So I went more towards the 10 o'clock now, not 11, and I'm turning more counterclockwise. So again, I'm gonna exaggerate, like if I was banking to the left, to the right from the pilot's point of view. And you can see that the airplane is turning to the right from the pilot's point of view, but the left aileron surface is moving up. So that means that the gyro will slowly, not neutralize it, but it'll make it stable when you're turning, which is perfect. I'm just gonna reduce the gain a little bit. I don't want it to overcorrect me or provide too much assistance. Now let's get started with the elevator. Same thing, I'm gonna turn it counterclockwise, and this time I'll just do it to the 10 o'clock position right away. So elevator, put this down. Okay, that seems to be responding correctly as well. And now the explanation to this is, as you can see, I am exaggerating the flight response or flight simulation. So I'm gonna make it so that the airplane has its nose pitching downwards. And you can notice, it's a little hard to see in camera, but you'll notice this in person. As I pitch the airplane downwards, the trailing edge from the elevator faces up. Again, like I mentioned on the aileron, it'll somewhat neutralize the airplane or stabilize it so that in flight, it's not too twitchy or up and down, like crazy stuff like that. So now the rudder is neutral on the 12 o'clock position. I am going to take this counterclockwise to the 10, like I did with the other two. The rudder is a tricky one. If we yaw the airplane to the left from the pilot's point of view, the rudder trailing edge on the surface should go to the right. Again, you have to exaggerate your flight simulation just to make sure that you're getting the right response. So, still moving it to the right, and I'm still moving it to the left from the pilot's point of view, and it looks just fine.